Should social media influencer Ranveer Allahbadia face police action and censorship for his indisputably gross, crass, and sexist remarks? I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. A huge debate has erupted over what the red lines are and what the response should be, both by the society and the state, when someone crosses those red lines. On a show called India's Got Latent, hosted by Samay Raina, social media content creator and digital influencer Ranveer Allahbadia, otherwise known as Beer Biceps, tried his hand at comedy, and that attempt bombed. His comments were gross. They referred to, jokingly, I don't know why he thought it was funny, watching your parents have sex or joining them. They spoke about offering money for women or men to basically have oral sex. I'm summarizing here because most of these comments are not repeatable. That there was nothing funny about these comments is clear. It's what happens next that is the point of debate. Ranveer Allahbadia has reportedly lost 2 million subscribers since this controversy erupted. But the Mumbai police has responded as well. There have been a slew of FIRs and police complaints. A parliamentary panel is now all set to summon him. Members of parliament are talking about legislation to basically enforce some order on digital platforms like YouTube and other social media networks. And there is a large amount of investigation now about what Ranveer Allahbadia stood for. In fact, it was quite interesting for us to hark back to his past. A number of his earlier content episodes were all about quote unquote Ladki Patana. There has been a fair degree of sexism in his past utterances. There has been a fair degree of, I would say, danger in some of his present utterances, including an interview where he asked, as the host, the interviewee to name 3 people who should be forced out of the country. So is Ranveer Allahbadia just a kid who lost his way, as his supporters seem to suggest? Or is there something more sinister here? And no matter which side of the debate you're on, is police action appropriate? And what does this entire controversy, including the popularity of hosts like Ranveer Allahbadia and Samay Raina, tell us about our content consumption, our, I don't know, our habits, our responses? What does it say about we the people? Let me introduce our guest on the program today as we look at not just what was said, but how we as a society and a state should be responding. Abha Singh, well-known lawyer, is with us. Namaskar, Abha. Good to see you. Dilip Cherian is with us, image consultant, brand guru. Certainly, there's a lot to talk about what this brand stood for and what it might stand for going forward. Also joining us is Nikhil Taneja, the very successful creator of We Are Yuva, has had, as always, a nuanced and thoughtful response. Is he being too kind? Is there such a thing as being too kind? We'll find out in just a moment. Yashovardhan Azad, one of our veteran IPS officers, is with us as well. And Rahul Ishwar is with us. Normally a very benign person, even when it comes to disagreements, agitated enough in this case to actually file a police complaint himself. Thank you very much, everybody. I should in the interest of full disclosure, say that I am not a fan of Mr. Allahbadia. And when he urged an interviewee to name 3 Indians who should leave India, I was one of the answers in the 3 names given by the interviewee. And at that time is the only time I've commented on anything he's done or said. I said I had no problems with the interviewee, but I was shocked that an interviewer would even ask such a question. And that was the first time I thought that he was not just a wide-eyed kid trying to make his way in the world, but that, there was something more going on here, that words have consequences for people and also for the people who say them. Let's get first reactions. Rahul, normally you smile and disagree. You could have been firm in your disagreement. I don't think this debate is about what he said. It was gross. It was crass. It was utterly vile. You felt exercised enough to file a police case. Why?
I am an admirer of Beer Biceps. I'm a Hindu right-wing activist. He is also more to the center-right spectrum rather than a center-left Dhruvrati. So I really admire Beer Biceps, but this is crossing the line. See, ethics is more important than politics. And beyond politics, we right, left, or center should come together and have some kind of guidance for our youngsters, because these are all brilliant youngsters, whether it is Dhruvrati, who I know personally, or Beer Biceps, who I don't know, but I don't think he should have crossed that line, which is absolutely gross. Not only Beer Biceps, many people, others. And this is one of the second complaint I have filed. One of the first complaint I filed was years back against Satvi Prachi for her anti-Muslim comments. See, belonging to one spectrum is okay, but don't promote the extreme of anything, whether it is humor, whether it is communalism, whether it is casteism. There is always a soft middle moderate ground, so you cannot cross that particular thing. And in Indian context, there are two things that are absolute holy cows. One is family and one is faith. Everyone's faith, whether it is Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, doesn't matter. Family and faith are the red lines, as you call it, Lakshmana Rekha, as we call it, whatever name you call. These Lakshmana Rekhas should not be crossed. And that's an absolute no-no. I hope he really learned that lesson. I have even talked to police today, and I was one of the first to complain, and Joint Commissioner of Police replied back to that mail, forwarded to DCP. I was again saying that we should definitely have a FIR, an example should be made of. I seriously believe he should bounce back in a bigger way. He should gain back the followers. But at the same point of time, an example should be made so that youngsters don't cross the Lakshmana Rekha, which is absolutely unacceptable.
But here's the contradiction for me. If you feel that he should bounce back in a bigger way, if other things that he has said that are problematic, that are hate-filled, that are dodgy, are to be looked away from, right? For example, urging people to say, name 3 Indians who should be forced out of India, which in today's time is an incitement, by the way, to violence, right? If this is to be looked away from, why? If it
I have
is
never
about,
heard that. If he has said that, it is
let, let,
absolutely
let,
wrong.
let me play out for you. I'm not going to play out the answer. I'm going to play out the question. Take a look for yourself.
3 Indians that should leave India and never return are 3 Indians that should leave India and never return are.
Why would see, as a journalist, I would never ask that question of anybody. He asked the question. Why would he ask such a question?
I agree, Barkha, that question was in a bad taste. Sai is a good friend of mine. We fought together in the Sabarimala stuff. And to be honest, if I can be very honest, Barkha is a very favorite hate figure for us, right conservatives who consider you as the epitome of left-wing liberal feminist thought. So, that might be the reason why Sai said that, but it should not be done.
I am saying Sai can hate me, but an interviewer does not provide a platform for hate. That is unprofessional. That is the point. I don't care who hates me. I'm still here smiling. The point is something else, Rahul. The point is, what do we pick and choose to condemn? When do we pick and choose it to condemn? And what is the appropriate response? And does that response, and should that response include the response of the state? I could have filed a police complaint after that and said my life felt endangered. I didn't think it was appropriate. I thought it revealed more about the anchor. So my point is, why the police? I think I am not a fan of Ranveer Allahbadia, unlike you, but I don't agree with police action.
But that's the counter. I'm a fan of Ranveer Allahbadia, but a police action should be made because there are certain lines that should never be crossed. Sai, in a debate with Shashi Tharoor, said, I refuse to call Mahatma Gandhi Mahatma. And I think Tharoor sir replied by saying that even if you don't call or not, it doesn't matter. He's still a Mahatma. So definitely that intellectual counter can be there. I'm a right-winger who has tattooed Mahatma Gandhi in my hand. So I urge always the ultra-right to come to a more center ground where we can have a center-right. See, we can have disagreements, but family and faith, I mean, to be honest, I am an admirer of Barkha. I have called you a fundamentalist feminist, but I can definitely disagree with Barkha without hating her. I think that's the point we should bring these people to, and there is always a middle ground, whether you are a center left or a center right. We can agree to disagree and still maintain some decency and decorum. I think he has crossed that line. That's the reason
I agree with that. I totally agree that decency and decorum were crossed. It will be very easy for me, given that I have a bias in this case, to actually say, yay, police, go for him. But I'm not saying that. I'm trying to be fair here. I'm trying to believe in the principles I consistently believe in. Dilip, what's going on here? I mean, the whole country is exercised with this. Everybody's talking about it. What do you think?
This is an issue for us to go down to the first principles and say freedom of speech, police, etc. Here is a guy who is so toxic, so bad, that you need to lock him in and throw the key away, is what I would say if I wanted to create a controversy.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that this approach of the liberal, you know, interviewer or thinker, that, oh, he's young, he's misled, he's lost his way, is just as damaging to the society.
Hmm.
We need to recognize that some people are doing this just to get eyeballs. That is dangerous, and uh, many people will not want to go there because a certain kind of extreme violent porn would be the same thing in its attempt to get eyeballs. So it's dangerous. And I think we should prevent such people. I may or may not have a view on police action being the best thing to do this, but if he does bounce back, or if he does get more eyeballs as a result of this kind of putrid, stuff, then we need to be worried as a society, and we need to discuss how to signal that as a society. Do we choke it off? Do we cut off his access to the internet for 6 months? What kind of thing should be done to him? Because it's not about freedom of expression. In fact, the whole bunch of people on this program have said some very vile, poisonous things. We've focused on this one because it is among the worst, but there was another whole admixture of fairly vulgar stuff going on here.
No, I actually agree with you that I don't think this is a free speech debate at all. I don't think it's a free speech debate. I think the only question is what should happen next. I don't think
As I
anybody
said,
is saying this is some first principle debate.
I think that the answer to that is that they have done a violation on the so-called free internet. The appropriate punishment is to choke them off access to that for a while.
That's an interesting thought. And Nikhil, let me bring you in before I get Abha and Yasho in, because you might be that liberal response that Dilip is saying is problematic, is part of the problem right now. This ain't no kid who's lost his way. I played out a little clip of him urging an interviewee to name 3 Indians who should leave India. Even if you take a cursory look at his past, right? If you see how Ranveer Allahbadia bare biceps, you know, the very name is a kind of, to me, a toxic bro culture, as the fundamentalist feminist that Rahul Ishwar calls me. Here's where he started out: 7 ways to patao a ladki. This is how it started, right? Here it is: ladki patane ke 7 आसान तरीके. This is how Mr. Bare Biceps started. Uh, and some of his tweets actually give him away. If you do a little bit of a cursory research, there's highly problematic use of language. It is a very, very bro culture. I would say it's a toxic bro culture. There's a certain way male interviewers, and you know this because you do a very thoughtful series called Be a Man Yard, but there's a certain way guys are able to talk, even to their interviewees, that women are not able to talk. And if you can pull that tweet up, please. Here, if you just take it in, any girl becomes 100x more attractive in a long kurti paired with those big, big earrings. I mean, this is random commentary. This is actually who this kid was, is, whatever. Now, Dilip is saying, don't give me this liberal claptrap about free speech. Nikhil, your take.
You know what's funny, Barkha? The first time, I think it was Nilesh Mishra who put up a tweet saying that this is vulgar content, etc., etc. I had in mind to write a thread about how much I disagree with what Beer Biceps routinely says. How I do feel like he's someone who amplifies disinformation, misinformation. He calls people who are sometimes violently hateful. And what
Yeah.
happened in this case, I think, is absolutely something that is I was shocked by it. If I mean Again, I actually reached out at that very time to somebody he knows very well, who's a common friend of ours, who I told that this is not cool, this is not done. I don't know if he's ignorant, or if he's stupid, or if he's being ridiculous right now, but this is actually this is dangerous what he's doing. So I actually had a very different point of view
Yeah.
that I would put out about how we should really be thoughtful about what we say on the internet. And Beer Biceps, as someone who's in a position where there's a lot of people who follow him, should know better than to say things like this. But now what has happened is that the outrageous, disproportionate response that we have seen from the media and the state has now forced me to be a defender of Beer Biceps, which is a statement I never thought I would say in my life. I'm being very honest about this. I do not support the kind of work he does. I've met him socially. I think he's a sweet kid. I don't think that he has an understanding of how much of a danger sometimes he is with the content that he puts out in society. At the same time, I don't think that anybody should be put into jail for saying something that is ridiculous, crass, or cringe. Of course, is it harming the moral fabric of our country? It's a conversation to be had. And as Dilip was saying, what do we do in situations like this is again another conversation to be had. But I do not endorse the state getting involved in something like this. The internet is a democratic medium. This clip was actually on a subscription based YouTube channel. You have to pay to kind of watch this. Now when you pay, there are people who pay for porn, and good for them. We are not saying that we should make it accessible to everybody else, but at the same time, it is someone's right to watch whatever they want in the privacy of their homes. Why are we suddenly making it's not a public platform? And my big problem right now, Barkha, is that there have been hateful things said on national television by a lot of politicians. I took out a statistic yesterday that just blew my mind, right? The India Hate Lab study says 1,165 in-person hate speech events against religious minorities in India in 2024. We have 46% of sitting MPs in Lok Sabha have criminal cases against them. And at this point of time, what is it that the media chooses to amplify? The media is going to the chief minister of Maharashtra instead of asking him about why is our air so bad, why is our AQI so terrible, why are our roads dug up, why don't we have basic amenities and standard of life in one of the biggest metropolitans in the country, in the world? How can, at that point of time, how can the biggest issue that can be on your mind, and that should be where we should use state machinery for, is some person on the internet who said something stupid? It could be something that outrages us.
One disagreement is that, unlike the consumption of porn in the privacy of people's homes, this is a very, very influential person, public figure with a mass following, acknowledged and rewarded at the highest levels of government, with access to power, with access to the who's who of India. I had a veteran diplomat call me today and said that, he or she, I won't give away the gender, was going to be on their program and feel saved by a whisper, by a whisker. That didn't feel like the person could say no, because Bear Biceps was seen to be so influential. So this isn't a nobody doing his thing in the corner of the internet.
I'm with you. Having said that, whose fault is this? Who has made him this massive creator? Who has given him platforms? Why is the state awarding him? You have been, cursory search you have done, and you have found out the tweets that he's put out in the past. You know how he started his journey, what he was talking about women. Why is the state rewarding somebody like this? Why are you putting him in a position where now you are outraged by what he's saying? He's always been like this. There is nothing that he said over here that is new information to me, honestly, because he's, again, and I say this, I think he's a sweet kid. I think there is, I don't think that he's malicious intent. At the same time, I do find him ignorant. That is a conversation I've had with him as well. There's a conversation I've had with people who are close to him. I don't think that I think he should be a lot more accountable, responsible, sensible about what he uses his platform for. Having said that, we are the ones, it's the media, it's the state that has actually made him this credible. Why are you sending some of your biggest politicians to his program when you know the kind of stuff that he already has on the program? You are also endorsing it. It's not just that he's giving platforms to politicians of our country. It's the politicians who are also giving him that access. Why? And now you are outraged saying, how could he say something like this? But he's already, and I'm not saying he's the only person. There are so many like this. We have most of the people in our country who have platforms on the internet, which are massive platforms, are saying some very, very problematic, very hateful things. Some of them are extremely right-leaning. Some of them genuinely are cozying up to power, but they do not get, nobody points out to them. It's just obviously because Beer Biceps and Ranveer has become a far larger name than most other people. So
but let's also say that Bear Biceps is not exactly an adversary of the government or the state, and they have still acted
Again,
against
but
him.
why? Again, and I'll tell you why. I think I know why. Because now again, if you do this, if the entire state machinery, if the entire media suddenly jumps on this one person, now what is his next step? His next step is not going to be, oh, I've realized now I shouldn't cozy up to people in power because they can at any point of time decide to sacrifice me. On the other hand, he'll have to go the other side where he has to now use his platform to give more access to people in power, saying use my platform for anything you want because I'm scared of you. I don't want to go to jail. That's a, I
Okay.
mean, again, what is the
Okay,
example?
let's get Abha and Yashovardhan and Azad to come in. Mr. Azad, I'll start with you. Should the police be involved?
Well, let me say that, for the first time, when I heard Fadnavis the other day on this, he said a beautiful line, "Abhivyakti ki bhi ek seema hoti hai." And, Rahul, I've spoken with him on many platforms and I really respect his views. He's one of the model right-wing activists, I would say, and I totally support him in this particular case.
You do?
There is
You support his police complaint?
absolutely that there is a limit to perversion, even. Thank God when somebody called me up this morning and said, because he said Barkha show, without asking, I joined anyway. But then I said, what is the subject? He says, some Ranveer. I said, who's this Ranveer? For the first time in my life, I heard his name. So let me tell you that even if he has a following of 80 lakhs, there are at least 144 crores people of India who don't know anything about him. But there are certain lines you draw. It's impossible. Let's not conflate it with what the politicians. Of course, the politicians are crooks. Of course, but comparing has wrong. Let's see what exactly he has done. He has talked about parents. I mean, there are certain barriers in life. I mean, I couldn't even breathe when I heard that. Never in my, any conscience, sleeping, waking, can I even imagine anybody talking about this, and worse, a participation. This is the worst kind of thing I have ever heard in life. So you cannot let it go unpardoned. I know, the punishment for obscenity is nothing. At the 294, there is some 3 months punishment or fine or something like that. But that's not the point. There should be, of course, other things. There should be an internet shutdown for him. He should do community service, but he should also face the wrath of law. You cannot get away with anything, whatever you feel like. It also reveals one thing which you indicated sometime or alluded to earlier, that this is the quality of low social media content that we have. I mean, if this is the kind of comedy, somebody sucks this and somebody pataus this, then it's a very low thing. It's like, Jawan, Pathan, Haram, all these kind of films, because a particular class likes it. They are doing very big on the
But this
box.
is our class. I just want to make it clear. This is our class. People like us consuming this content, just a different generation. And we've got to think as older people, why are we not communicating more effectively with them? It's something for us to think about also. Why are they turning to this content?
Absolutely, because there is no healthy entertainment like during our times where there was no entertainment, but we used to create through sports and a good cinema about good Ramayana or Mahabharat and things like that. So it's a very, very serious thing for the society to think now. But I would never allow this kind of a thing. The state, I know, has to be very magnanimous, but the state cannot allow this level of debauchery and moral perversity right in front of you.
Abha, do you agree, or do you feel this is state overreach? Again, I want to be very clear that not just am I not a fan of this gentleman, I find him dangerous. I do not agree with the little content of his that I have seen. I think he's mindless and completely unaware of the consequences of what he says. And that said, what happens is, and that's why we have to be very careful here, that once you allow the state in, tomorrow the state can come after anybody on grounds that they choose to defy. Tomorrow it could be you or me or Rahul or Dilip or Yashu or Nikhil. And that is why we are all very wary that there has to be a kind of agreed template. And governments and politicians are usually the last people we trust to define our template for what should be said and what shouldn't be said.
Barkha, I can understand that your fear, because police overreach. But you in the beginning only said those three words. You said words have consequences, they bear consequences. So if
Yeah.
you go by the law of the land, like when we talk of 296 of the BNS, it was there in IPC also, that anybody who utters a word who that's obscene. So the definition of obscenity is what is relevant here. But that was what we made it a bailable offense. That means you it was a minor 3 months punishment which was bailable. You were not to be arrested, but it did convey that there is something called obscene. Freedom of speech has restrictions. But now comes the social media, the IT Act. That makes it 67 of the IT Act clearly says that circulation of obscene and sexually explicit material, punishment is 5 years. First time crime is 3 years, and its second time offense is 5 years. So what we are trying to show is that now with technology reaching every home, you have to be more accountable. As long as it was a stand-up comedy at one place which could not be viral, not many people came to know. Okay, but now when every child is watching, there are young children, kids watching this program, what message are we conveying to them? I mean, they are going to ask that a 7-year-old and 8-year-old will start wondering, curiously go and ask
But
parents what.
Nikhil made the point that this was not free access to all. You had to pay for it to consume it. So
you know but free access you have to pay, but the way it goes viral and it's forwarded again and again, it goes to every group. So we cannot take this line that it was paid. In fact, if you remember the AIB roast, that was also said, no, there's no need to watch, but we got the FIR registered, and there was FIR on the likes of Deepika Padukone and other Bollywood stars. So what I'm trying to say is, who's Ranveer Allahbadia? Why is he? I just saw that he's been with the Prime Minister. Why? Because you are becoming overnight celebrities, and you're being endorsed by people in power. You have the external affairs minister. How difficult it is to meet the prime minister of this country. So but these people who are getting this kind of publicity and followers, if they're going to breach the law of the land with impunity, then they need to be taken to task. They need to be given the message that if we can put you on a pedestal, so if you are violating the law of the land. And why is the police coming? Because there's a provision for that. So police is not coming on its own. So if we don't want, in fact, Supreme Court in so many of its judgments has said that everything related to sex is not obscene. But again, it has said that there's something called the prevailing community standards. The prevailing community standards, if you deprave the mindset, if you are something you're speaking which is
but yeah. So in this case, I think it's quite clear what's been said. But Abha, tomorrow there was a time when somebody talking about gay rights could have seen to be prevailing, violating the community standards. Again, I want to make it very clear: there's no debate over what was said. It was absolutely debased. It was gross. It was crass. It was horrible. But Yasho Azad, before I come back to the others, why only him? There were so many people. I think Dilip made this point. You see, there were many people there, right? He's not even the host of the show. That gentleman, I'm told, I had to research him again, not to sound like some, auntie boomer or whatever. I don't consume this content, but I had to search, and somebody in the comments wrote that when Samir Raina used to talk about chess, nobody watched him, and when he started talking like this, then everybody lined up to watch. And it's an eyeballs game. But why only Ranveer Allahbadia? Why not everybody who was sitting around that table laughing?
Yeah, so then Abha and I will have to see that what sections to apply to those two others who are laughing. Somebody was a little quiet, somebody said a word. No, he's the main protagonist of who's doing it. Therefore, he's the guy. And as Abha very rightly said, there is a law for it. It's not that the political parties, it's not a question of freedom of speech here. It's a question of something which attracts the law and attracts a particular section. And that's why I think the force of law should be used against it.
Nikhil, I want to bring you in with a comment from in our audience stream. If you really want to punish Ranveer and Samay, stop watching. They will stop when you stop. LOL. And I think that's what we're not getting to the bottom of. What is this audience that is consuming this content? Why is it consuming this content? And will he, Akash Banerjee, who goes by the moniker of Deshbhakt, he tweeted today saying he's playing a clever, he being Ranveer Allahbadia. this is only going to end well for him. He's going to get even more followers at the end of this. More people now who know who he is and what he does. And is that the route that we're actually not tackling, right? Why is there this mass following for this kind of content?
So again, Barkha, I will also reiterate, just like you have several times over, I completely disagree with what he has said. I disagree with a lot of the comments that are made on a show like that. Having said that, I support the fact that if somebody wants to create adult focused entertainment or content at their own dime for other people who have the agency to pay for it and do it in some corner of the internet that I don't have to care about, they should have the right to do so. Why my big problem is, how do we define decency? What is decency? Somebody talking about making a joke about, of course, parents, sex, etc., etc., 100% from a community lens it seems indecent. But why are we not as outraged when there is hate speech commonly spoken by politicians of our country? Why are we not as outraged when there is sexist, misogynist things again said by sitting PMs? There are rape cases against sitting PMs, and we are not outraged about that as a country. 85 rapes per day in our country. We're not outraged about that.
Sitting MPs, not PMs, sitting
Sorry,
MPs.
MP.
MPs, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many sitting MPs who have had so many this several criminal cases filed against them. Having said that is not enough to outrage the media, not enough to outrage the state machinery. But somehow there is one random kid. I mean, again, and I'm not even saying, calling him kid minimizes it.
Yeah, he's not a random kid. He's not a random kid. He's not a random kid.
I should not have said that. I think there's an adult who is doing something for, and again, I'm saying he said something absolutely ridiculous. I don't agree with him. In my life, I have never agreed with what he says. In fact, I think that there is far more toxic things he does on his podcast than he ever said over here. Having said that, making him the target of, see, my big worry, Barkha, at this point of time is, what will this be used as an example to do? The fact that if today you can take a subscription based YouTube channel, take something out of that and say, I find this indecent. Now you can make that case for anything on the internet, and especially the publicly available content. You can say, I don't like this one thing that was happened over here, and now that there is enough cases filed against this, now we have like a example or a proof of concept about this. Now I can take this overreach and put it on anybody else. That is my larger fear. We've already started OTT censorships. There are content that is in OTTs again which people are paying a lot of money to watch, and yet there are people now saying that within that content I didn't like this and hence there should be police cases. Why? My other thing is, isn't this a waste of state resources? These resources can be diverted towards actual crimes, murders, cases that are happening. People are getting murdered every day I open the newspaper and I see rape, murder, assault. And what is the state doing? It is going to Ranveer Allahbadia's home and saying, moral policing him and saying, how could you say something like this? Is that not a waste?
Okay, everybody wants to respond to you, so I'll start with Rahul.
I disagree with him. I just want to say that again, repeatedly.
This is a classic debate between the liberal position and the conservative position. I agree with Barkhaji taking that liberal position, saying that, I may disagree with you, but I'll
no, Rahul, this is not my position. Wait, I do not have a free speech lens on Ranveer Allahbadia's comments. Please, wait. Don't attribute a position to me that I don't have. I agreed with Dilip that this is not a free speech debate. This is not a free speech debate. I would actually be quite comfortable with internet access being choked to him than him going to jail, because he derives who he is from being able to create content. Take that away from him. That will hurt him. But possibly if you send him to jail, he'll get to play victim.
I would say the other.
To be honest,
sorry. Everybody's speaking together. Rahul, you go first.
With due respect, nobody in their genuine mind will believe that he will go to jail. But we are only saying that there should be an example made of. And thank you, Asad sir, for the kind words. Two things we have to remember. Liberty's twin sister is responsibility, and creativity's twin brother is sensitivity. You cannot, divorce them from these. So liberty comes with responsibility and creativity comes with sensitivity. And please remember, free speech ends where the hate speech begins. Humor ends where the perversion begins. And let me talk the language of the Gen Z, where you say more power means more responsibility. The Spider-Man kind of a dialogue. See, my son, Yag, his name is Yag. He's 8 years old. He wants to become a YouTube content creator. See, had he been 14, 15 or 16, I would have been worried whether he is consuming such a content. Right now, he is only into cartoons and all. So genuinely, you are injecting and poisoning the minds of the people. That's the reason why I agree with Barkhaji's question saying that we don't have to make it a free speech debate. Rather, make examples. He's not going to suffer more. Maybe a FIR, maybe some other content creators should know that there are some lines, some Lakshmana Rekhas, you shouldn't cross. You can call it red lines, you can call it Lakshmana Rekhas. There are some holy cows that we should be
I
very
agree.
sensitive.
There should be
This is
some
this is the only
consequence.
submission.
No,
There
there
should
should
be
be some consequence. The debate is what is that consequence, right? So Dilip, as a brand sort of guru, if brands don't pull away from him after this, if brands continue to collaborate with him, right, then he's not suffered and there is no deterrence. That's the point. And I think that's where our attention to be, instead of on police and parliament. I take Yasho's point, I take Abha's point that a line has been crossed. But you see, money speaks. If he's going to continue to roll in the brands, to roll in the views, then what's changed? People will keep talking like this. Okay, it's a blip. He got scared a little bit. It's not going to be a deterrence to other people talking like this.
As Rahul said, there are holy cows. I have no beef with that. But what do I have? I have this business of, if you misbehave in a plane, your rights to fly get taken away from you. If you misbehave on the internet, like a lollipop, gets taken out of you. The only sound we should hear is his choking on it. And let me tell you one thing. Take him off for a year, he will be forgotten because more creative people will come on board. When he returns, he will try and get more obnoxious in an attempt to get back his audience. But in the meantime, the world and the internet would have forgotten and moved on. That's the right thing to do, because as you know, we've all reached the conclusion that there are sections of the law, there are lawmakers who are promoting him, and there are sponsors. Your question as to whether his image will be dented enough to have sponsors move away is exactly what happened with the guy who arrived at the Grammys or some award with his wife totally naked. Sponsors have to move away because
Kane, yes.
Kane. And the thing is that unless money speaks, this kind of rubbish will only get encouraged. And money must speak. Corporations.
But what if money doesn't speak? What if this is a headline for 2 days? Some FIR is filed, it's forgotten, he's back to business, nothing changes. That is the problem with this debate, right? Like, I think nothing will change.
Barkha, I think all of us have concluded that he needs to be punished. The best punishment is to shut him off. Sponsors will naturally go elsewhere.
Yasho, you agree with that? That's a better route than police act? I don't know what the technology mechanics of this are. Only YouTube can block him for a year. I don't think the state can't.
That's true. I agree that the money will hurt him the most. That's fine. That's okay. But I'm again talking about his specific words which he has used, which I tell you has blown the daylights of my mind and of so many people. Talking about something, a barrier where you never go, that is what attracts this particular section of law. So what I'm saying, it's not a question of what hurts him the most. That's fine. It should happen that way. As you rightly said, that in the plane, if Dilip said that in the plane, if you conduct something like that, then you are banned for life or whatever. But in this particular case, somebody deserves a lesson because he's crossed the Rubicon.
But what about Nikhil's argument, Yasho, that there are television news anchors who actively promote hate and division among people? There are other content creators who do something similar. When I say we, I'm saying we loosely. The state looks the other way from them. Even we as a people have just got used to them. And therefore, is this a selective application of outrage?
Let me ask you a counter question then. Have you ever heard of this phrase ever in your life about parent sex? Has it ever come in the lexicon?
No. I can't believe I'm in a position to speak on behalf of Mr. Allahbadia, whom I can't stand. The point is, The point, quite simply, is that because it's my job as a professional to ask questions from all sides of the conversation. I'm trying to do my job as a professional. And my question, quite simply, is when Nikhil Taneja says that there are other kinds of absolutely gross commentary, sexist commentary, not about your parents having sex and watching them, but other kinds of filthy commentary. Why do we look the other way? You say what?
No, that can they be conflated in this particular case? That it's not being done in that particular case is wrong. And we have talked about this on your program too. But in this particular case, as this is a unique case, and that's why Abba and I are saying that it attracts a particular section of the law. But this act particularly is so vile, Barkha. It's so vile that I can't tell you. That's why I support Rahul and his FIR.
Okay, Nikhil, before Abha gets the last word, Nikhil, what is an alternative mode? If you do agree, as you did, that you don't agree with what he said, you don't think this is a first principles free speech debate, but you find the state response disproportionate and selective, what is the better way forward? Because clearly it can't end, everybody seems to be saying I should have used the platform better, because guess what? This was not even his original comment. He lifted it off another program. He very clearly planned to say it. He didn't fumble or stumble on his choice of words. He copied, pasted, regurgitated knowingly. He just didn't expect the response.
See, I feel like there must be some mechanism that we can put into place where we find somebody for saying things that hurt the moral or social fabric of our country. I think there was a very nice idea put that YouTube can turn off his monetization. If you put off the monetization for some time, and that is a fine that you use, it actually hurts people where they would at the center of where they would come from. There can be brands, of course, if we can, there can be a brand boycott, and that can be put into place by some forum that is created by the government which decides, etc. Understandable. My big problem again is, and again I want to say, this is not what I endorse as a statement by him. He has said something which is very vile, very crass. It can be considered malicious. Completely understandable, right? The response and the outrage against what he said is understandable. My problem is the prioritization of our country. Why is everyone up in arms about this one comment when there is routinely stuff, misogynist, sexist, scary, terrifying, misinformation, disinformation, hate speech against Islamophobia, homophobia that is spouted by the most popular people of our country? It is spouted by politicians, by news anchors, other YouTubers, again, much bigger than beer biceps, by the way, and nobody bats an eyelid because we have normalized all of that. Why are we defining decency as only something that is happening in a closed comedy space where the idea is to be ridiculous? Yes, the level of ridicule that he's gone to is crazy. He should not have gone there. Having said that, that space in itself is about ridicule. You're supposed to say outrageous things, and that's what we're getting.
But why? But why? But why?
How does it matter to us? I'm saying in public forums there are people talking about hate speech. That is not a problem to us. But somewhere in a space that is created for some entertainment of their own selves, why does that matter? Why is this a priority?
Okay, Abba respond.
About AQI, about potholes in Bombay.
I would like to tell Nikhil, there is something called, there's nothing like this in India called negative equality, that he did this, so he's not been punished. Why are you punishing me here? So we don't have negative equality. Secondly, what is important is, if you know the criminal justice system, it works on the theory of deterrence apart from theory of reformation. So deterrence is where the police comes in, the law comes in, the punishment comes in. Thirdly, if you are arresting someone for drugs here and he says thou does the biggest drug thing abroad, you have not arrested thou, then you are arresting me in India. So that doesn't work. And let me tell you, if there is some TV anchor who's spitting venom, I'm sure Rahul Ishwar or for the likes of me or anyone can come forward, pick up those words, go file an FIR, a police case. No one stops.
Why is that not done is the question.
Why is that happening?
Why is that okay? Why is nobody getting angry about that?
Rahul can go for this, you can go for that person. It makes us all very responsible citizens, active citizens. Someone who wants to say, no, we are a country where
But what about the others? But Abha, what about the others? What about Samay Raina who hosted this show? What about
No,
what
in
about the
fact,
young woman? What about the woman there who's very
Yeah.
participatory in this whole
True,
thing?
Barkha FIR should be, now that the FIR is registered and the police goes for investigation, it is their duty to see that everybody who was a part of it, they are also added in the supplementary charge sheet when they make the case. Because if you remember in AIB roast, there were people in the audience like Deepika Padukone and I think one more person. They were not uttering any word, but they were laughing at the sexist jokes. And the point which I put up before the magistrate was that it was a part of a script, that you will make cheap remarks on me and I will laugh. And so that part of criminal conspiracy, and people, more than one people involved in the crime. So yes, the Mumbai police, if it is investigating, these other people can also be covered under the same charges. And I'm sure they will be covered under the charges because the law says that.
Okay, Dilip, very quickly. Sorry, Nikhil, you have a sentence because I do have to close.
I
Nikhil,
just have
just make
one
it brief.
sentence. I have
Yeah.
one sentence. It all
Yeah.
comes out of context, right? Trevor Noah said this wonderful thing in a speech that he had once made, where he said that context is when a man goes up to a naked child and tries to touch him, that is wrong. But a man touching his own naked child is okay because they're the parent. Over here, there is a space with agency. Everybody in that space agrees that this is okay, and they are doing it behind a subscription paid platform. How is that something that is any of our business when there are people who've decided with agency that this is okay for us? It's not
Nikhil,
okay.
this is where I would like to tell you, in AIB
It's not a
roast,
public
it
thing,
is
it's not
also
free.
Let
on
me-
a personal
let me
place.
respond.
What we said, when it is put into the social media, when it is there on a platform, then it is no longer personal.
I want to say something. I want to say something
That
here
is
because
what
Nikhil, I want to try and Nikhil, I want to try and Nikhil, I want to try and answer that question. YouTube's community guidelines are so stringent otherwise when it comes to journalistic content that the Manipur video in which a woman was paraded naked, stripped, do you know that even though we had blurred, obviously, as old style practitioners, we had blurred the images of the woman who was stripped naked and paraded in Manipur. That is how the violence, when the violence erupted between the Kukis and the Meiteis in Manipur. Do you know that YouTube removed that blurred video where no woman was identified and removed all the programming around it, saying that this was in violation of their community guidelines? So there's a counter argument here. My counter argument, as someone whose content also resides on YouTube along with other platforms, is when very serious journalistic content, Atul Subhash's case, what Atul Subhash said in his video was removed by YouTube. We argued with them. They said it's a violation of our community guidelines. So when such enforcement of community guidelines is to be made that a lot of journalism is actually today impossible to report, I don't know that I'm comfortable with YouTube allowing this space as a subscription-based model, because kids today have money. They can sign up and consume this. Underage kids whose parents don't do nanny control, everybody has a phone. So I'm just saying it's a bit complex. I respect your point of view. I'm saying there are complex counter questions to be answered. Nikhil, you're saying something? Sorry, can we unmute Nikhil?
Sorry, I'm saying I think I agree with you. In fact, I think we're saying the same thing, that there is a bias in the way we look at different pieces of content. There's certain lenses applied to certain piece of content far more than there is a lens applied to other pieces of content. My thing is, should we not be judicious in the way we look at all content, and what content gets police action from us? I don't think that this falls under that lens, is all I'm saying. I don't endorse this. I don't think that this is the kind of statement that requires police action.
Yasho, Rahul, and then Dilip, because we do have to close. Yasho.
My last line is only one, that the parents' sex term crosses all limits, and therefore it attracts that section of the law, irrespective of anything else.
Rahul? And BNS 296 is there, 294 is there, IT Act Section 67 is there. I like Ranveer. I'm a right winger. But when you cross a line, that should definitely be made an example and punished.
Abha, one line before Dilip gets the last word.
The definition of obscenity covers this, and I'm very clear as an upholder of law of the land that if people have problem with the law of the definition of obscenity, go to the parliament, get the law changed. But till the time it is an offense, the police will come knocking at your doors, and you may say that it is police overreach or this, but when the law is there, it has to be upholded. And yes, I would say YouTube does take down things which it should not on its own. But here it is keeping silent because it is again the moolah, the money which they are raking in. So we definitely need some regulation, because end of the day, the constitution does say freedom of speech has reasonable restrictions of public order, dignity and morality. Public order, decency and morality. So these three words have to be upheld as enunciated in the constitution.
Dilip Cherian, last word to you. You know, one
I
of the
would
arguments we had with YouTube was, how do we tell the story of Atul Subhash if you will not let us carry even some bit of his video, not the one exhorting suicide, not the one exhorting self-harm, but his story. But no, Manipur, entire programs were removed just because there was a visual reference to a video where the woman's identity was protected. So I just believe that your proposal, that monetization, commercial backing is the real punishment, is the one that I'm more comfortable with.
And I think also, Barkha, we need to pause for a minute and think about why has the state, including the Assam chief minister, come down on him like a ton of bricks. I think because they are embarrassed that someone who they espoused, who they allowed free reign, free access, has crossed the line that Yasho has drawn. It is not a line drawn in the sand. It is a societally, across all lines, accepted line which this person has crossed. We need not give him any airtime. We just need to recognize that when the state itself is embarrassed, YouTube, I'm not sure how long they will hold out, but YouTube also needs to be named and shamed.
Well, YouTube has taken off that video, but
Lovely.
Nikhil, I wanted to read this comment out to you. I don't know if it's accurate. Samir Raina made the episode of the show exclusive for members only after the controversy. Earlier, it was available for all. I don't know if this is true, but even if it's not true, Nikhil, I will stand by the fact that there's a lot of journalistic content that is taken down in the name of community guidelines. So even if this was members only, why is this being platformed is a question that we need to have a debate on. I do believe that the answer lies more effectively if the answer is deterrence, then Mr. Allahbadia should be punished commercially. That would be a much more effective deterrence and one that I think everybody could get on board with. We leave it there. Thank you very much to Nikhil Taneja, Dilip Cherian. Yes.
I think, I mean, again, I know that this is just an experiment. Please go out and read something about dank humor. It's a coping mechanism of young people. They like humor like this only so that the life is hard. They see stupid things like this because it makes them feel like, hey, it's okay. There's at least somebody joking about the dark stuff. That's what it is all about. Having said that, I completely respect all the arguments made here. And thank you so much for, again, explaining the law to me, which I did not have that much understanding about.
I'll allow somebody to respond to that, because I know if I leave it there, people will be very disturbed with the fact that young people are deriving their comfort from talking about their parents having sex and them taking part in it. I get what you're saying, but sometimes I think we over-intellectualize crap. This is, pardon my language, it is utter and total crap. Let's not normalize crap.
I don't endorse it, but I do not want anybody to go to jail because of it. That's all I want.
Okay. Dilip, I'll let you respond and close, please.
I think one tight, there's that wonderful meme on Instagram. One tight slap across that little Sardar boy's face by his own mother solved his entire depression problem. And that's the example to use here. Dank or whatever else.
Okay. We have a larger conversation on this.
All right. Another time.
Thank you.
Another time. Thank you, Dilip, Nikhil, Abha, Yasho, and earlier to Rahul. Thank you. Take care. See you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.